I'm wearing a Hamilton, early 50s, and I'm pretty sure that the ecological footprint of this watch is very small. But what if I put it on the leather strap or on an alligator strap even? Is this good or bad? Let's find out in this video. Welcome to Caseback Watches. My name is Tim, and after a 2-week break I'm back with an interesting topic, and I think you were affected by that topic. You were part of that topic because we're talking leather today. On a forum I found an interesting debate, and people argued over the question, is it okay to wear a leather strap for your watch or even an alligator strap? Is that okay when we take in consideration the ecological footprint or the well-being of the animal? And in case you're a subscriber, then you may know that I run this channel and Casebackwatches.com, the online shop for fine watch straps and other leather items, leather products I make with my own hands partly. And so in the last years I collected quite a bit of information and knowledge and experiences I'd like to share with you in this video, because at the end then you can make an educated decision, informed decision, whether it's good or okay to buy a leather strap or not. And so let's get right into it. Let's start with the critic part here, the impact during leather production. And let's start with a number. For 1 square meter of leather you need half of a ton, 500 liters of water. Next number is that over 75% of leather is chrome tanned. That means tanned with very toxic chemicals. And when you see the typical leather production, especially for the fashion industry, takes place in countries like Bangladesh, very little regulation over there, very little options for the people, and so a tannery looks like this. And such a tannery has a huge impact on the environment, on the worker who works there, and at the end on the client. Because if you open a parcel with a cheap leather jacket from such a tannery or a manufacturer that operates with such standards, then you will smell that there's something wrong, that you shouldn't store that thing in your sleeping room, for example. So huge impact. You can of course buy chromium tanned leather in Europe as well, or in America. Highly regulated tannery then looks like this, way better, but still has a huge impact. The problem is smaller when you buy vegetable tanned leather, because as the name suggests, this is based on plants, oil, so the impact is much smaller, much lower, but of course this material is expensive and not widely used. So in case of leather production we have to state, yes, there is a very large or very severe impact on the environment and on people. And now let's go to the next point. Here is the ethics behind it, because leather means you have to kill an animal. And the big question is of course always, do they farm animals only for the leather? Or let's put it more drastically, do they kill animals only for their leather? Do they do this? And when you stick to, let's say, regular products like watch straps, boots, your leather jacket, your wallet, then the answer is no. These leather products, these hides, are a side product of the, let's say, meat circle. The real value, there is the meat, and then they use also the hide. But we are in an industry with quite some scandals, and so let's be a bit critic. Is that credible? And the answer is yes. And I can say this with a certainty because the numbers dictate it. If you see a small manufacturer like Caseback Watches, when I try to buy an entire leather cowhide, which I don't do, it's too big, but I could do it. And this is around 4 to 5 square meters, so it's a large thing. And you pay, I would pay about 400 euros for it. 400 euros to the wholesale. The wholesale buys the thing, of course, from the tannery and pays then, what is it, 200 perhaps? I think 200, around that. And the tannery then pays the farmer for the raw material, what is it, 100, perhaps 50. And it's simply not possible, or it's simply not reasonable to farm and raise a big animal for 50 to 100 bucks. But you could ask now, Tim, you have your horse straps in your shop. Nobody eats horses anymore. And that's certainly true. And that's the reason why horses are very rare nowadays, and they are very expensive nowadays compared to, let's say, normal farm animals. Nobody would kill such an expensive horse only for the hide. So when you see now your shoes made of horse leather, or you buy a horse leather strap, then this is material from the animal at the end of its lifespan. In fact, the butchery of horses in most countries here in Europe or in America or Australia is highly regulated and sometimes really forbidden. But there are, of course, other cases. Think of the alligator. And here we have a different scenario. Yes, there are still states where an alligator is part of the menu. I think not the daily menu, but people do eat that animal, and so that alligator is hunted or farmed for meat consumption and for the hide. But I'm pretty sure that this is an exception. The big demand of alligator hides comes from the luxury industry, as said. You think of your handbag. You need way more material for your handbag than for a watch strap. And so you have these large animal farms in, let's say, countries with less regulations, where people don't have so many choices to make a living, and where times for animals are rather grim in our example here, because I've read numerous reports about scandals around animal, or I should say alligator farms, so grim that you cannot really explain them on YouTube without getting banned. I mean, the most grim fact is that they skin, in many cases, the animal alive. And I think for every sane mind, this is just enough. This is just the reason that you say, no, I don't want to be a part of that. And so I don't say here that every farmed alligator is part of a scandal. No, I don't say that. But the amount of bad reports is so big that I personally have decided no alligator strap for Caseback watches, and for me personally. Personal decision, it's just too fishy and too risky for me. I don't want to be a part of that. And so from all what we have heard right now, we could decide to stay away from leather products because of the impact and the ethical inclusions. Let's put it that way. But the reality is a bit more complex. I will start with the example you have heard already, I think. This is the comparison of a long-living or long-lasting product to a fashion item. And the best example are shoes. I personally have my 2 pairs of Allen Edmonds for the summer. The Strand is the model. I just love it. I have 2 pairs so that you have a bit of a rotation. And I use these shoes and I don't throw them away because they set me back 450 euros a pair. They're expensive luxury shoes. And I will take care of them and I will use them for, let's say, 10, 12, maybe 15 years. And when you see here the neighbors in front of their doors, they have this collection of sneakers. They're families. And every member of this family buys a new pair of sneakers every year. And after 10 years, you can imagine a mountain of sneakers. And I think it's very unlikely that this mountain of fibers and plastic and foam and what else is better for the environment than my 2 pairs of Allen Edmonds here. Next example are jackets. The fashion industry cranks out leather jackets really, really cheap. You can buy them sometimes for 100 bucks. And even this sloppy quality lasts 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And compare this now with the cheap plastic jackets, so polyester and other fibers, that will be replaced basically every year. We have sometimes here a flea market, or let's say neighborhood market, where people try to sell their wardrobe. And then every family has this transparent cubicle from IKEA filled from bottom to top with cheap garments. And everybody has the same. Nobody buys it anymore. It's dead cheap. You can buy now plastic jackets here, polyester jackets for 50 euros, which is absolutely crazy. And nobody can tell me that this is good for the environment, this cubicle compared to a few cheap leather jackets. But I don't say that these leather jackets are good, because then we're back into production and it's very harmful for worker, environment and you. But when you buy, for example, a leather jacket made by Aero Leather in the UK, not affiliate video by the way, but I'm pondering or sneaking around one of their jackets, and that thing you can wear forever. So it means that it has in the first year a big footprint, but this footprint reduces itself by wearing the jacket over decades. And so again, the decision to stay away from leather is not the optimum here. The optimum would be to show a bit of moderation and don't buy these cubicles filled with trash. But wait a second, I sneaked a bit around the question of long-lasting watch straps. Do they last a decade, a watch strap? Absolutely not. When you wear high-quality horse leather watch strap the entire year in the summer, in a hotter climate, let's say south of France or Florida, then I think you could ruin that thing in 2 years, 2 or 3 years. I've never done it, but I think you can ruin it in quite a short span of time. And so, do we have to stay away from them? Answer is no, because they consume only a tiny, tiny, tiny part of leather. When you see an entire cowhide, as said, they have up to 5 square meters, and you see then this little patch they need for a single pair of watch straps. Then you realize you can make hundreds and thousands of watch straps out of this hide. So I think this is excusable if you compare this to a handbag for a lady, and then you have this tiny piece of leather that serves you well for 2 years. I think this is really, really, really okay. But now back to high quality versus cheap. How to spot the quality, how to know if your manufacturer of choice uses good quality or not. And this is very hard to see, sometimes even pros cannot see it. But a good guideline, I think, is to stick to companies with tradition and knowledge and the willing to deliver the 110% to you. Because these manufacturers buy high quality hides because they are so good. They're good people. No, of course not. Cheap material causes problems during manufacturing, causes problems later when it's with the client, and the client realizes after 3 years, oh, there's something wrong with the material quality of my leather jacket, for example. This then really is expensive. This is way more expensive than just buy the high quality hide. You can buy leather items, you can wear them, you can use them, as long as you buy them informed and as long as you see them more as an investment and not as an act of quick consumption. I had an interesting chat with a bootmaker here in town, and he did a bit of research and he found out that 100 years ago, when people wanted to buy or needed new boots, then this was an investment. This was really an investment because the price back then reflected a month's salary for a, let's say, educated worker. And so people really thought about that. Is it necessary? How long do it last? And so, and I think this is a very good approach. This is a very good approach, and it would kill the fashion industry, but it's better for the environment, it's better for our wallets and other benefits. All right, and now I have a little goodie to show you. A viewer, Daryl from Texas, sent me some very interesting images with this. And he writes, "Dear Tim, I hope this finds you doing well. I thought I would share with you a subset of my watch collection that is unique to the southwestern United States. The Navajo have a long history of jewelry making, dating back to when they learned metalworking from the Spanish. With the expansion of the railroads after the Civil War, excursion trains to the southwest became popular, and the Navajo took the opportunity to sell their works to the tourists. Flash forward to post-World War II and the US copies of your Autobahn highway. We call it the interstate highway system that opens up a vast new flood of tourists. The first watch bands they made were a watch cuff or large silver bracelet with a watch mounted on it. They still make these, but they can be quite large and bulky. In the late 50s, two things happened. Timex came out with very cheap watches, and Spiegel, was it Spiegel or Spiegel? I don't know, produces this twist band. The Navajo started producing watch band tips with cheap watches attached, a tradition they continue to this day. Like any avant-garde fashion item, the popularity of these has waxed and waned over the years. I remember them fondly for my childhood vacations, so I decided to put together a small collection of the various styles. Rather than use the cheap quartz watches, I paired mine with inexpensive watches with a little mechanical soul. I'm not a big fan of the twist bands, so I'm making my own leather bands. I also use one Timex just for tradition." Yeah, this is very new to me, and I was blown away by the color play and this combination of colors together with the silver. And in fact, I thought this jewelry overpowers some of these watches, but it makes sense when you read the history behind it, that they really needed something really great for the tourists to make some money. And so thank you very much, Daryl, for sending this in. And dear viewer, I'd like to continue with the series here of viewers' images. So if you want to be a part of it, then send your image to caseback.watches@icloud.com. Watch images with a bit of background around it. Horizontal format works best on screen. All right, that was the official part of this video. Should I tell you what I've done the last 2 weeks? I was drawing, basically. I tried to be a better draftsman. I had to train a lot for that, and I realized I need a project. I need a project. And then I was fascinated by French kitchen brigades. Every cook has its purpose, his or her purpose, I should say, sorry. And there you have very specialized people like the poissonnier for the fish, and the rôtisseur for the grill, and the potager for the soup, and so on and so on. And I thought it would be a great idea to characterize these cooks in form of little portraits done in ink and watercolor. And I think my skills are now okay, and so I think they turned out pretty nice, and so I was extremely proud of them. And now my wife will produce a nice art print with them, with a kitchen brigade of a fictional restaurant called the Duck Press for our kitchen, basically. And so this was a bit of a success, and now I need the next project, because I learned really that it's important to set yourself under pressure when you want to learn something. And then can I tell this for copyright reasons? No, don't know. I'm the biggest Tintin fan aficionado in the world, and I thought it would be so great to make the next Tintin album, at least the cover. And I had this outline of a story in my head, Tintin avec le Viet Cong, which is Tintin with the Viet Cong, because it would fit nicely into the series. And then I tried to create a nice cover for that with helicopter and tin and jungle and all these elements in place, and I chosen a very nice piece of paper for it, started, and then I realized, Tim, you're not there. You're not good enough. You have to train more. Back to the drawing board. You have to train more anatomy and hands and feet and composition, all these elements. Damn it. But I have another project in mind, but now I will stop rambling. This was the explanation for my absence. If you want to see all these cooks, then check out my Instagram account, caseback_Tim. There you see them, and there you will see the progress for the next project. All right, and that's all for this video. Thank you very much for your attention, as always, but I really mean it. Longer video, quirky topics sometimes. So thank you very much, and see you next Friday.